into the pain tolerance, for me, my journey was basically, the hack that I mentioned was, I knew that being an assistant was the first step that most people took. I also knew that being an assistant, similar to what somebody said earlier about being locked into a day job, it makes it hard to have time to do other things. And so I would watch these assistants who were my bosses as interns, I would watch them be locked to their desk all day long, right? And have to only serve the executive that they worked for. But they learned a lot. But they didn't get access to special meetings. They didn't get access to high-level conversations. They didn't get access to the filmmakers and talent that walked in the door, that were meeting with their bosses, other than just bringing them coffee, et cetera, right? Which can still be meaningful FaceTime. But what I noticed was, as an intern, I could just act like I didn't know the rules. So I could just say, hey, I'd love to sit in on that meeting. I'd love to hear how you give notes. I'd love to whatever. And people, if you don't walk away from this with anything else, know that people want to be a part of your testimony. I heard somebody say that recently on an interview. People like being a major part of your success, right? And so I knew that I could feed into that with executives and producers, et cetera, and say, look, can I help you by taking notes in this meeting? Or can I help you by just being in the room and hopefully, giving you feedback after the fact if you want me to hear something from a young person's perspective, because most of the people as gatekeepers are not, right? So that was, and I decided from that moment forward, I was not gonna take an assistant job, and I'll end up being, watch this, an intern for 6 years at different places, right? Between undergrad and grad school. Now, I'm not advising you're gonna be an intern for 6 years, but I am saying that was the most invaluable time period in my career because I met so many different people. The contracts are only 2 months, 3 months, right? So it meant that I got to do 2-3 internships per semester, sometimes overlapping, right? You add up those years and those semesters, there's a lot of internships. There's a lot of people that I knew, right? Now, for the first half of that time period, I was still doing those internships with the intention of building a network that then led me to hopefully get an assistant job. But halfway through, I'll give you a really quick and specific, unfortunately hilarious story. I was interning at a network that'll go unnamed, and they make great stuff, right? Great stuff. And everybody was pretty cool to me. I did my job. I showed up every day. It was all fun and games, whatnot, right, for the most part. But one day, I was always in these meetings, finding my way to these meetings, doing lists and learning about new projects, whatnot. And then one day, there was this executive who screamed that he wanted some chicken salad. Go with me. He wanted some chicken salad, right? And so I was like, what they got to do with me? Like, it ain't really my job, you know what I mean? His assistant was like, I need to figure out how to get this man some chicken salad. Can you go downstairs to the food court and find this for him? Because his lunch meeting got canceled or whatever. Cool. The problem was, executives on that level don't really eat at the food court where all the assistants eat, typically. They have these fancy lunches off campus, right? So he hadn't been to the food court in years, at least like 7 years. So the place that he wanted chicken salad from literally no longer existed in the food court. So I get down to the food court, and I ask everybody. Nobody has chicken salad. Nobody even serves it. I'm like, okay. There was one restaurant that was like a teriyaki rice bowl place, and I looked at the menu. I'm like, well, they at least have the ingredients. They have chicken. They got chicken. They got mayonnaise. They got whatever else. So I explained in this, what I thought was a very clear soliloquy about how to make chicken salad to the brother at the cashier. And he was like, so you want number 1 or number 5? I was like, okay, look, I'm going to pay for the most expensive thing on the menu. I have allergies. Can I just go to the kitchen and tell them what I need? He's like, yeah, cool. So I go to the kitchen. I explain to these cats how to make chicken salad, right? They make it. It looks like white slop. It's terrible. I take it back and I try to dress it up again like a little green salad, some pita bread, whatever. I take it back to the office. That process took 45 minutes of the lunch hour, right? So I get back to the assistant and I'm like, look, before you open this box, it's chicken salad, but it ain't gonna look like chicken salad. So he opened, he's like, this is not gonna work, whatever. This guy was kind of a yeller, you know what I mean? The executive was. So we're waiting. Me and the assistant are sitting outside waiting for him to scream, throw it out the door, whatever, right? A lot of the Hollywood stories you hear are true. And so we hear him yell, But he instead, this is the best chicken salad I've ever had. I want it every single day, blah, 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 right? So the assistant, after I told him, while we're waiting for the answer, I told him what I did. He's like cracking up, right? He's like, I appreciate the effort. You didn't have to do all of that, right? And now he has a problem. He runs in, like, Steven ain't even here every day. I don't know how you get a chicken salad every day. Like, I don't think you know what he had to do to get it, whatever. So that was hilarious. And then right after that, he walks me around, the assistant walks me around to all the other assistants on the floor and is telling them this crazy story about what I did to get his chicken salad. And they were all laughing. They thought it was funny. It was cool, whatever else. They high-fived me like, yeah, yes, the effort, like all this stuff, right? And I get back to my desk. I'm like, man, the most exciting thing, the most impressive thing they think I did during this whole internship was getting some chicken salad. Right. Not the list of writers and directors that I pulled that were, up and coming, that I was peeping because I was just in the streets, and they were like, who is this person? And then a month later, it's the person in the trades, in the news, right? That's like the new big person or whatever. That's not what impressed them, but chicken salad did. This subservient sort of, thing. I was like, man, and as a black man, like anything to do with chicken and success felt just really twisted to me, right? And literally that day, during my lunch period, I sat down and I said, you know what? This is not gonna be the path. Like the path for me has got to be way more entrepreneurial. I was selling peaches at 3 years old, you know what I mean, on the farm. I've been selling whatever I could sell that was legal and somewhat legal, as long as I could remember, right? So being an entrepreneur and being in that space just didn't fit for me. But I knew that making that choice meant that I had to have a certain threshold for the struggle that would come from not taking the check, right? And so that's what I mean with deciding what your threshold is, right? And that's could be financially, but let's say you have a family that will take care of you. That's amazing. There's still a professional pain threshold you will have to endure, right? Which is, I'm gonna go on this road less traveled and just jump into it. Let's say my finances are taken care of, amazing. But now I have to sort of continually juxtapose where I wanna be and where I am. And sometimes that gap can be frustrating because you may feel like you may look around at your peers and they may be further ahead, et cetera. But just stay focused on your lane because ultimately that's gonna get you in trouble. And you never know what a peer may have experienced inside of what looks like success, right? So that is my piece on the sort of divine mission of it all and locking into that. But again, no matter what the sort of process and pain will be, because there will be that. If you notice, I'm not saying if you endure pain or if you come to struggle, like that's gonna happen. It's just part of getting to where you're headed, right? But you'll appreciate the result if you appreciate the journey and the process.